Hey, everybody. My name is Kash Patel, former chief of staff to the Department of Defense for President Trump, current author of Government Gangsters, and I'm honored and privileged to be on the program with the greatest coach in college basketball history, Coach Matt Doherty. You better watch this show and find out what the truth is and learn how to rebound.
Welcome to The Rebound with Coach Matt Doherty.
Welcome to The Rebound. I'm Matt Doherty, and I'll be your host. On this show, we focus on the topic of leadership and overcoming adversity in an open and raw kind of way. We discuss setbacks and how to rebound from them. With me today is Kash Patel. Kash is the founder of the Fight with Kash Foundation, dedicated to providing financial assistance to active duty service members and veterans. After more than a dozen years in government service, Kash took senior leadership positions in the Trump administration, including chief of staff to the Department of Defense, deputy director of national intelligence, and deputy assistant to President Trump. Kash gained notoriety as the chief investigator for Congress's Russiagate investigation under Chairman Devin Nunes. Kash uncovered the illegal actions of the FBI, DOJ to spy on the Trump campaign, authored the famous Nunes Memo, which laid out the historic corruption and weaponization of law enforcement. Kash is also an author. His newest book, Government Gangsters, exposes deep state government corruption and is a bestseller. President Trump called his book a brilliant roadmap to take back the White House and remove these gangsters from all of government. Kash currently serves as a senior advisor for national security, defense, and intelligence to President Trump. He also sits on the board of directors for Trump Media Technology Group, which recently went public. Kash, thank you for being on the show. Tell us about your latest book, Government Gangsters.
Coach, it's an honor to be with you. It's so cool for me to be speaking to such a legend, a couple of Strong Island kids taking a couple of different paths and ending up on the show together. When our buddy Jim Caviezel threw it out there, I was like, I'm in. I'm all in. I'll talk to him as long as he wants. So thank you for what you're doing. But appreciate it. I won't go too long in the book. But, after the Trump administration and after 16 years in government, the president, a couple of friends and mentors were like, you don't need to write a book about what you did. You need to write a book on informing the American people about the truth. It's really the only thing I ever cared about. It's really the only thing that ever drove my mission set in government. And the thing that ticked me off the most, and remember, I was an apolitical guy the majority of my career. I served in the Obama Justice Department. It didn't matter to me. It was a national security mission. And when government leadership started to break the law, break the rules for political convenience, I was just kind of blown away. I was like, wait a second, this doesn't happen here. This happens where my parents fled from, that dictatorship place, but not over here. So we put the book out and we tried to give it a personal flavor. But more importantly, as President Trump and a lot of other people I respect told me, said, don't just identify the problem. Everybody can do that. How do you fix it? So Government Gangsters is a roadmap to fixing the agencies and departments that I think have been fully weaponized for political purposes and restoring them to serve the American people. Joe Biden blocked the release of the book for 10 months. I had to go to federal court to win my manuscript back, if you can believe it. And so there's probably some things in there they don't want you to read, but we put the government documents in there, how to fix the agencies, and a cool announcement on your show. Government Gangsters is being turned into a film and it's been released in, I think, at the end of this month. So appreciate you letting me talk about it, and hopefully everybody gets a copy.
No, I'm all about the truth, and maybe it's from where we grew up, right? In Long Island, we just want the truth. Tell me straight. Don't BS me. And I became passionate about the truth in government when I got on WBT in Charlotte with host Brett Winterble. And it really puzzled me when Trump lost to Biden, and then why did people like George Soros become involved in supporting DAs throughout the country and really trying to take down our country, and then supporting pro-Palestinian protests on campus? Why? I ask you, why? Why do people want to take control and destroy the fabric that is our country?
I think it's twofold. One, they want the power, or the ability to control the levers of power, because guys like George Soros, they don't need any more money, right? You can only do so much with so much money. And then I don't think didn't happen overnight. I think people got wind of what the swamp was doing, and most of them joined forces with the swamp, like Soros and company. It's not just Democrats. Republicans did the same thing. A whole establishment class of Republicans just put out the revolving door of how do I succeed in DC so I can get my next paycheck and so I can get out there and have my name in the headlines. And Donald Trump blew up that narrative. Donald Trump blew up the swamp, and they hated him for it. So what they did was they collectively combined forces, and they said, not only can I, the Soroses of the world, come in and own government, but I can return it to what it used to be, which is government that was owned by a lot of bureaucrats and rich people who serve the needs of those bureaucrats and rich people. And I talk about it like the defense industrial complex or the lobbying industry. And to me, I found that just like you, I was like, this is highly offensive. Like, we don't go to serve so that we can serve ourselves. No one's forcing you to do that job. And so for me, that was like the essence of why they did it. And then when I ran Russiagate, when I ran that investigation, I told Devin Nunes, who I'd never met and didn't even know. And by the way, I didn't even know Donald Trump then. Like, I knew who he was, but we had never met or spoken or anything. And he goes, look, you have an intelligence background. You're a prosecutor. You're a counterterrorism guy. I said, so what? He's like, you want to run this investigation? I said, I'll make you a deal. I don't know you guys. I'll come to the Hill if I get to put out everything we find, whatever it is. If Trump's a Russian asset, we put it out. If he's in bed with these people, we put it out. I didn't think, as a former DOJ guy, we were going to find epic levels of corruption by the DOJ and FBI themselves to rig an election. It was just mind-blowing to me. And then the pushback we got when we tried to put out the truth was, I think, the most shocking surprise of all, but it was countered by the George Soroses of the world. They didn't want that narrative out there, the truth.
How do you respond to critics who claim that this is all conspiracy theories?
You know, that was the measure that we had to overcome. And we couldn't give speeches about it. We couldn't go on TV and do enough media interviews about it because there was such a slant in the media. There was such a vitriolic hatred for anything that might prop up Donald Trump, which I didn't understand because I was like, we're putting out the truth. So we learned really fast. The American people don't want to be spoken to. Give them the material. So we gave them the receipts. We gave them the documents. We gave them the memorandums from DOJ. We gave them the warrant. We literally lifted the curtain and said, you guys look. You guys tell me if this bank account says Hillary Clinton funneled money illegally to hire Christopher Steele. And then you guys look at the court documents to say, did the FBI lie? And all of that was, of course, answered in the affirmative. But that was a big step in getting the truth out. But that didn't stop the media. That was just the beginning. Now we're 8 years down the road.
We touched on media several times. And a big part of the communist playbook is controlling the media. How come we don't have more friends in the media? How come the right doesn't have more say, more control?
So I think whatever you want to call it, I call it a deep state, and people get offended. And I'm like, look, I wish there wasn't a deep state. I wish I didn't write a book about destroying the deep state. I would love to have not ever endured through that. But the deep state, the leadership, again, in Washington, not Democrat or Republican, they are a uniparty, in my opinion. Yeah. They are in bed with one of the biggest conspirators in the world. That is the mainstream media. They use them to get their narratives out. They use them to get famous and rich. And they teamed up when Donald Trump hit the White House to say, which was ironic to me because I was like, what's Trump, from a national security guy? I can't speak to health or economy or whatever. But he wanted to kill terrorists, bring home hostages, end the wars, take out the cartels, and seal the border. I was like, that's not like a conservative liberal thing. That's just like an American thing. And they went after him for him because he succeeded. And that was the irony to me. I was like, you're gonna break him down because he succeeded in the things you've been lobbying for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And what I realized was those folks never really wanted to answer that call because that's how they kept their existence going in Washington, and the media supported them.
They're not serving the American people. They're serving themselves and their families and their future grandchildren.
Look, I'll give you a perfect example, and I hate to from the Trump administration, right? Again, we're not going after Democrats, we're going after people who just didn't do the job. Mark Esper, when he was Secretary of Defense, failed to carry out the lawful commands of President Trump. Mark Esper gets fired, and Raytheon hires him where he used to work before he was Secretary of Defense and gives him $10 million. And going into this administration, Secretary Austin, who's the current Secretary of Defense, he used to work for one of the big defense contractors. That defense contractor, since Lloyd Austin has been Secretary of Defense, has gotten over $3 billion in government contracting. Do you think Lloyd Austin's not going to leave government and go out and get paid? I mean, no one ever bothered to stop it because everyone wanted to get in on it.
Well, Kash, this has been terrific. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, Kash is going to tell us how our country can rebound from this turmoil. The Rebound is sponsored by Sector Spider ETFs, a unique family of exchange-traded funds that divide the S&P 500 into 11 sector index funds. You can buy just the sectors you like or customize the S&P 500 by weighting the 11 sectors to meet your financial objective. Please visit them on the web at sectorspiders.com. That's sector, SPDRS.com.
Alps Portfolio Solutions Distributor, a registered broker-dealer, is the distributor for the Select Sector Spider Trust.
Kash, tell us how our country can rebound from its current state of turmoil.
Well, Coach, I'm going to go back to my days of, I'm a lifelong hockey player. Grew up watching the Islanders in the 80s. I got my buddy Kenny Morrow's USA Olympic jersey right here next to me.
Kenny Morrow.
Yeah, the defenseman from the Miracle on Ice team and the 4 cups with the Islanders. Anyway,
yes,
I go back to the Miracle. You know, it was that time in U.S. history where we were literally up against communism, and the country came together through a sport to defeat communism. A lot of other things happened, but I think that ethos that brought that Miracle on Ice team, that they brought America together, I think the way we rebound is kind of taking a piece out of their playbook. They didn't describe it as a Republican or Democratic or Libertarian victory or movement or what have you. They just described it as the name on the front is way more important than the one on the back. And that's the one we're fighting for. And I think if you convince Americans, and yeah, people chastise me because obviously I'm biased. I'm Donald Trump's senior advisor for national security and defense, and I would like to see him getting back in the White House. But I always go on shows and challenge them to say, I'm not saying vote for Donald Trump because he's Donald Trump. I'm saying vote for him because look at the policies he's laid out to secure the border, to defeat terrorists, to return hostages, to end the forever wars, just to list a few things. If you know someone else who has a better policy, I want to hear it. I want to be involved. And I think Americans are starting to turn the page and say, wait a second, I think I was blinded by the media before. Maybe I just need to dig a little harder for the truth now.
President Trump is certainly a polarizing figure, right? And so many people either hate him or love him. And what I say to people is, listen, he's not coming over your house for dinner. You know, I think of Bobby Knight, the legendary coach at Indiana. I think of Bill Parcells. I think of different coaches that were gruff and rough. The coach of the Miracle on Ice.
Herb Brooks.
You're not going to have dinner with these people, but you want them. Like Bobby Knight is a good basketball coach. Bill Parcells is a good football coach. Nick Saban is a great football coach. You want them leading your football program. You want someone with the morals and values and the energy and toughness leading our country. And I look at it this way, as a coach, as an athlete, who would Putin rather see across the conference table?
Right. Biden. He's getting owned. And that's the simple reality of it. That's why our adversaries, the CCP, our enemies, Iran, the mullahs, the terrorism, the wars. That's why our former allies in the Middle East are partnering with those guys and Putin and trading with them and opening up their banking system with them because they no longer fear America's prowess on the international stage. It used to be we have to make all these decisions and check with the USA in the very least. Now they've just sped past that because it's Joe Biden, and the harm doesn't happen overnight. The harm happens over years. I mean, just to stick with the border and folding in this terrorism aspect of it, our enemies have been seeding illegal immigrants and foreign terrorists into our country for the last 3 years. And don't take my word for it, the FBI and DOJ have admitted that they've lost at least 24 known foreign terrorists who have illegally entered through the southern border. That's done on purpose by people like Iran and terrorist organizations and folks like the CCP and others. And that could have been easily prevented and was, as you noted, when we had a different leader. So it's people just got to make a decision. Is that what you want in your communities?
So why? Like I keep asking why. Why are we allowing those types of people into our country, giving them easy access?
Yeah, look, just this week, Joe Biden again said, hey, we're going to keep allowing illegals to come in. We're going to give them hotels and meals and voter ID. And look, I'm not saying the majority of these people aren't decent human beings and don't deserve a shot at life, but I'm saying the 55,000 homeless veterans come first. Our cops, our first line workers, our teachers come first. Our child education system comes first. And if we got leftovers, then we take them. And I think the reason that it has been accepted, to use a word in quotations, is because the mainstream media came in and just said, we're going to do the opposite of whatever Donald Trump did. He was successful at securing the border. We're going to flood the zone. We're going to come in and they're going to use it, and they have been, to allow people to get in and get voter IDs and participate unlawfully in an election process. Because the Soroses of the world know that you need the two-tier system of justice and you need, butts in seats. And they're buying them, just like they used to buy the minorities in this country and never actually do anything for them. We're going to promise you this. We're going to save you here. They're doing the same with they knew that if you get 10 million people in the country and half of those folks vote, they're voting Biden, that may be the margin.
All right, let's pivot, talk more about leadership. I think one of the most important qualities in leadership is energy. Donald Trump has tremendous energy. Why is he putting himself and his family through? Why? Like some people say ego. He doesn't why is he doing what he's doing when he could easily be just hanging out in Mar-a-Lago in Florida?
Look, I ask him every time I see him. I just spent a full day with him in court last week in New York. And I said, sir, why are you doing this? And every single time, the answer is the same. Kash, our country's heading in the wrong direction. I love this country, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to fix it for our future generations. And it's not a punchline. You feel it. That has been his inner core since I've known him, and before when he was running for president the first time, 8 years ago. And you're right, he could have a really nice life, but he is the one person I've seen that actually takes the arrows, takes the incoming from the media, takes the onslaught that his family takes, and the falsehoods and the lies that are written about him, and he turns it into a good. He turns it into a motivating fact. I have never seen a man work as many hours in a day as this guy does. I would try to sneak off and take a little nap in the Oval on the couch when he wasn't looking, but he caught me. And he's relentless. And you know what? You want to talk about leaders? More of our leaders that serve this country need to have that ethos.
Yes. What is something, you touched on it, but most people have an image in their mind about Trump, even if you support him. Mm-hmm. He's gruff, he's rough, he's ego, he's got a big ego, he's sophomoric at times. Tell us a story about Donald Trump that would help people look behind the curtain as to what type of person he is.
Just returning to family, I guess, for me on this one, I was down at Mar-a-Lago maybe 2 years ago, and I had my parents with me who hadn't met the president yet. And we were doing an interview with the president. And we were in the studio side of the business dealing with whatever, and my parents were in another area of Mar-a-Lago. And unbeknownst to me, Donald Trump knew my parents were there. He was going to come say hi to them after the interview. Unbeknownst to me, the president left his quarters early, went down to see my parents, and offered to serve them tea, and sat down with them and hung out with them to talk to them just about everyday life. I didn't even find that out till after I sat down with him during the interview. I was like, here's a man who is a commander-in-chief, leader of the free world, running for president. And now when I talk to him, he's always like, Kash, how's your mom doing? it's pretty cool, right? Like, that's amazing. And he's not faking it. Like, this guy's got better things to do than take that amount of time to fake it. But his memory never leaves him. Every conversation could be 3 months later. You're picking up right where you left off. It's unbelievable.
What will your role be in the administration if Trump gets elected again in November?
Look, my mission, I made a deal with the president. I'm all in to get you elected. So from now until the 150 some odd days left from now until November 5th, that's the mission. And we're putting the mission first. If there's a conversation to be had after that, that's up to him. It was awesome serving in his administration in the roles I had. It was a privilege to defend this nation and run national security based on intelligence with a commander in chief that put American interests first. And if there's a capacity to do that in the future, I'll come on your show and tell you all about it if that happens. But right now, it's all eyes on November 5th and DJT.
I'm in the process of writing a book called The Park, Lessons Learned from Prospect Park, which is next door to Garden City, where you grew up. And one of the biggest things about sports is meritocracy. It doesn't matter what your skin color was, how tall you were, how fast, how old. If you could help the team win, you got to play.
That's it.
So Kash Patel grows up in Queens, moves out to the poor side of Garden City, which I didn't know there was a poor side of Garden City, caddied, went to Richmond. As you say in your book, most Indians are supposed to be doctors, and you're like, I don't want to go down that path. I go to law school. But you're a blue-collar guy that ends up in the White House. Like, that's what this country's all about. Like, there was no favors. You just busted your butt and put yourself in position to have that opportunity.
That's it. And that's, that's what America's all about. I'm living the immigrant dream. I'm living the lawful immigrant dream, my parents and our family. And that was, the plan was, if I'm being honest, Coach, I wanted to go to law school and make money and be the guy in suits. But, God taught me a funny lesson along the way and said, we might have something else in store for you. So, you just keep working. And if you can inspire people along the way, that's great. But you just keep serving the mission. And at the end of the day, the opportunities come up. I found that people who just want to get in line and be like, I want that job. I want to be that person. To me, that was like, whatever. I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is killing terrorists and bringing home Americans and ending the wars, stuff like that, getting the bad guys. And so I was blessed and fortunate to just have a path laid out for me that I would never have envisioned. But here's the kicker. It's only possible in America. It's still only possible in this America that we need to save, which is being threatened by communism.
So your family comes from India. You're exposed to all different cultures throughout the world. What is hiding in plain sight? We used to say this when you were evaluating players. He was hiding in plain sight. What's hiding in plain sight that our country, our citizens are not seeing that they need to wake up to?
The truth. It's not you have to go mine for it. It's there. Most people just don't want to see it because they don't want to see it through the lens of what they say is Trump derangement syndrome, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, that's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. I mean, just last night or the day before, in our hometown of New York, 2 cops got shot by an illegal immigrant. How is that okay? In my hometown of Vegas the other month, two Americans were murdered by an illegal immigrant. I mean, that truth isn't like under disguise. It's out there. It's just selective because the media accounts of what they want out there and who they want to be their representatives has blinded too many Americans. And so we just got to pound on it.
Well, that's what we're trying to do here on the first. Last question. What question should I have asked Kash Patel that I didn't?
Can I tell you something, Coach? I do a lot of interviews, a lot of like media, TV and stuff. This has been one of the best I've ever participated in because you ask questions that mattered. You asked questions that audiences want to hear. A lot of it is, hey, tell me about Russiagate in 76 seconds. How am I going to do that? That's impossible. And even if I succeeded, you wouldn't believe me. So you asked questions that I have never been asked before, which was really cool.
Wow.
So I appreciate that. I would say the only question you haven't asked me is, can I come back on your program? Because I've had fun doing this. And when can we do that?
Well, I wasn't going to ask you. That's going to be a demand. I'm grateful. I'm going to tell a funny story on myself. I met you at Mar-a-Lago with Jim Caviezel. I was a guest of Jim as he spoke there at the event Catholics for Trump. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, we go to this kind of private room and he introduces me to you. And I say, hello, Kash, nice to meet you. What do you do? And I'm like, and you go, head of security for Trump. Yeah, okay. So that was humbling for me.
No.
But what I realized, you're a regular guy who is a truth seeker and a truth teller. And that's what we try to do on this show. Kash, thank you for joining us today on The Rebound with Matt Doherty.
Coach, it's been awesome. I hope to get back soon. Thanks for doing this.